Hey everybody, welcome to the Over Sharon Holiday Episode season finale premiere. I don't know, I'm just making up words now, throwing them out there. It's a holiday special. We're really excited.
Our last episode of the year.
Yeah, it's the last episode of 2021, which is special because this is the year we started it, was in 2021. And we just wanted to kind of, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, you know what? I know what I'll do instead of ruining the show. Why don't we go to the tarot card for the holiday episode? So Sharon's going to pull a tarot card for us.
Okay. Were you going to read a quote first?
Yes.
Or shall I pull the tarot card?
No, go. You could start shuffling. And then while you do, I'll read the quote. And the quote today is from the Bible. Yeah.
Maybe I know the scripture. Let's see.
It's the holiday season. I'm sure you probably do. It's from Matthew.
Oh my gosh. Is it the one that the Christmas special, the Peanuts Christmas special does?
No, I don't think so.
And Luke, the book of Luke?
No, this is from Matthew. I'm just saying it's the holiday season, so I'm using the Bible. Here it goes. And Santa Claus will come down the chimney.
No.
No, this is Matthew 13, chapter 16, and I'm using the New International Version. And listen, I just... I don't want to start making. This is the thing. I heard King James. Somebody once was like, "Listen, it says King James authorized because he's authorizing you as a slave to get that version." Anyway, whatever. I just ostracized all half our listeners. No. This is the first one that came up. Here we go. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For truly, I tell you, many prophets and righteous people long to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it.
That's right.
Good the word of Matthew. Right? Is that how they do it? This is the praise be to God. I used to go to
I don't know. You used to go to church.
I used to go to the Catholic. Yeah. And I like that because it really reminds me of what people say occult or whatever it is that means, because it's this knowledge that's hidden and there's these miracles that you witness, and anybody can witness them. They're just seeing them, but they're just not seeing them as miracles. They're just like, they were just convinced that it's like, oh yeah, it's just normal. There you go. So yeah. Is that the
Ready?
Two? Oh yeah, go ahead. Is that the Page of Wands? Wow. A lot of wands recently, huh?
Are there?
Yeah, well, for me, that's really cool, man. The Page of Wands.
Page of Wands, yeah. I'm trying to remember what the Page of Wands was about.
I like that.
I remember I've gotten this card before in my readings. I know that it's a good card.
Yeah, well, pages kind of represent something new. So think of like a freshman or like a apprentice, right? And then if you think of
is there a feminine aspect to it?
Yeah, there is. There's a feminine aspect to it, but not in a way of sex. I mean, it could be if you're
right. I just mean like feminine versus masculine when you're talking about the tarot.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's the page, so it's like the princess, I guess you'd say, because you have
sometimes they're called the princess in some decks.
Yeah. So, but a lot of times you'll see the card with a figure that's standing there, and the figure is kind of androgynous. And it's somebody like, you think of like the Fool. So the Page of Wands really reminds me a lot of the Fool card because it's similar. It's like actually it could be the same person, because the Fool, he's holding the wand over his back with his bag, over his shoulder. I mean, with his bag of his stuff. And in the Page of Wands, he's standing there looking at it, like inspecting it, like he's picking up this wand. So it could even be a precursor to the Fool. So that's another reason why I like that too, because we pulled the Fool on this for our first card that we've ever pulled on the show when we started pulling cards a few episodes ago.
We pulled that one for sure.
Yeah, so it's a good little, little deeper evaluation into what that could mean. And wands represent fire and creation. Think of like a magic wand or a magic stick. I got the magic stick. I don't know why I said magic stick.
Oh God.
Think of a magic, like Harry Potter, his magic stick. That's one of the episodes, wasn't it? Harry Potter and the Magic Stick.
It's the
And then he ended up in
holiday
jail.
season.
It was the holiday season. I hung up my stick. She sucked on my. Anyway.
Oh God.
So
Keep going. Never mind. Move along.
Hey, it's a holiday special. Listen, you're gonna get some humor. There's humor, plenty of humor to have. So yeah, that's what that I would say represents.
Well, when you're done, I can actually read the little thing that the book says.
All right, let's do it.
You're breaking up. Okay.
No connection.
You ready for me to read from here?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. It says, the page of one says, you are a free spirit with the passion for life. You are filled with new ideas, giving you a feeling of creative restlessness. You feel a strong pull toward using these ideas to start a new phase of life. A spiritual path may be calling you.
Ooh.
I've gotten this card before too. And this whole like free spirit with the passion for life totally describes me. And I think it really resonates with what we're going to talk about in this episode.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't you think?
I think it does like 1,000%. Not a coincidence. It's just the way the universe works.
Not a coincidence.
So, all right. Let's get into this, Sharon. What are we talking about today?
Get her done.
Are we just here to talk about Santa Claus and holiday things, or do we have
Santa
something
Claus
to talk about?
And holiday season. So we're going to talk about the holiday season, but we're also going to talk about how it has been rough on some families and some people the last couple of times. So this year and probably last year, because of a lot of things that have happened in 2020 and 21, probably starting in late 2019, but mostly really hitting 2020, early 2020. So, but then we want to talk about what we're grateful for despite all of that, and all the things that we like about this time of year, because there are people who I should say traditionally this time of year is about getting together with family or friends, and the Christmas spirit, which is like very loving and kind and generous. And you see people on the street and you're more likely to smile at them. They're more likely to smile at you. But the last couple of years, that's been kind of difficult to know if someone is covering their face because you can't see them smiling. And then people who are restricting your ability to even see them because they need some sort of certificate or some sort of confirmation that you are healthy or unhealthy, allegedly.
Yeah, engaging in experimental medical serum.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we just wanted to hit on some of the points. And one of the points that I think is just clear and really obvious is that we've met each other because of a lot of this stuff. Like I never would have met Brandon, and likewise, if I hadn't come to see this community through Owen Benjamin. When I found Owen Benjamin in early 2020, or early to mid 2020 is when my friend told me about him. And so I started kind of like being part of the community, even though at the time there wasn't an app, but there were ways to engage with the community. There was a website, I think it was Vox Day's website, that it was kind of like the beginnings of like social media for the Bears.
Social Galactic.
Social Galactic. I forgot what it was called, but yeah. So I joined that, but there wasn't a lot of stuff going on in there, but somehow, I would still keep up with of what was going on with them through YouTube and other things. And toward the end of, actually it was like December of last year, that the app for the Bertaria Times had come out. And like a month or two prior, the Bertaria Times website had released. And so only a couple months later in December did the app come out. And that's when I joined. And then not long after, I started meeting people like Burn Bear, like like Cody Del Paxton, and a couple other people. And then it wasn't toward, I think, the mid early, like I want to say like April is the time frame that I met you, Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw one of your videos talking to Pasquale Bear.
Yeah.
It was, and I was like, oh, sovereignty law, that's like natural law, that kind of stuff. That's so up my alley because I had just been looking into that stuff like on my own with some friends that I met online again. Because that's what was going on. 2019, late 2019, early 2020, I was meeting people online that were like-minded to me. So boom, 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 I was meeting all these people. And I was very grateful to find all of that, So yeah, we wouldn't have met. And since then we've built community in ways that we never would have if a lot of this stuff hadn't happened. And so
Yeah, I want to say it's crazy because the way 2020, the events that went down, it was kind of like sold just like any other product, right? Like there's all this online hype and buzz like late 2019, this crazy things going on in China and then it's coming here. So it's like the new PlayStation, they're loving it in China and it's going to be here. Make sure you line up, and people are lining up, you know what I mean?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it came here and it
Yeah.
was just that it hit Italy, right
Yeah.
before it came here. And it was this,
That's why
this,
I saw it coming in late 2019
mm,
because of the event 201. I already knew about that in 2019. So I
mm,
saw it coming. I said, yep, I know what's going on now. I know I'm opting out.
yeah, right. Exactly. So, I think that, I'm trying to think what else for me. I mean, you want me to start talking about what I went through and all that stuff then? And like what was good for me? Or am I going to skip ahead of you?
Well, let's finish up the intro and then we can go into
Okay. Yeah.
more detail. So one of the other things that we noticed is that it exposed a lot of things in our lives that we didn't need,
Exactly.
because of things that were restricted. So if it was like, well, you can't get in here because of this, then you're like, well, I guess I didn't need that after all.
Like
At least that's what I
haircuts,
did. Huh?
like haircuts.
Yeah, like that. Like the funny part with the haircut thing was I was like, I was going to a lady that did it at home. And I messaged her and I was going to make an appointment. And she's like, oh, but you're going to need to wear something on your face the whole time. And I said, okay, no worries. Never mind. I don't need to make an appointment. And she's like, why? And I'm like, well, I can't wear one. Thank you. And so I stopped going there. And then one day I was going to the grocery store and right next door, there was like a Great Clips type of place. Probably is called a Great Clips. I don't even know, but it's one of those places. And I saw a lady walking out without anything on her face. And I looked at her hands. She wasn't carrying anything that covered her face. Nothing. I was like, so I walked up to her like she doesn't know who the heck I am. But I was like, did you just walk in there without anything on your face? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, so they're taking people like that. Thank you. So I walked in there and I was like, yeah, can I make an appointment? So then I knew the girl that was okay with it. And actually, I think the lady even told me who it was. She's like, oh, this girl doesn't mind or doesn't care or whatever. And I'm like, okay, sweet. Because I had gone to another place before, like some weeks before, and they were like adamant, like, no, you can't come in here without that on your face because my dad has this, that, and the other. And you can't, he's very fragile and you can't. And I'm like, fine, I'm not coming in then. You just lost a part. You just lost business.
You should have been
Bye.
like, your dad didn't die in Nam. What a pussy. Yeah, use their spells against him. My dad died in fucking Nam like a real man. Just say. They'd be like, ain't nobody covering his face from no fucking Charlie. Nope, dead. And now you got freedom and you're gonna harass me? Anyway, we're making this funny, guys. That's what we're doing. Oh, I can't wait
Yeah.
to use that when somebody says.
Oh man. What do you mean? But yeah.
Your
Um,
dad's still alive? What a pussy. He should have died in the rice paddies and Nam like a fucking man, defending our right to fucking have Facebook. What's wrong with you? All right, anyway, go ahead, Sharon. I'm done.
uh, no worries. Yeah. So that was another thing. So, and the other thing, it also made people aware of things that were important. And case in point, I was listening to a Crow episode this morning. It was episode 375 with this guy named Min Win. And it's a very interesting episode. But what he noticed happening, because he's a school teacher, in actually in like in an Asian country. I forgot which country it is, like Burma, or no, I can't remember. Anyway, don't quote me. But he's a teacher there, and he was noticing that because of things like Zoom, parents were now able to see what their children were actually learning. And so they could make decisions based on that, of whether they wanted to become a stay-at-home parent from now on, or whether they wanted to take their children out of school completely, because if they needed to go in for any reason and they were going to not be able to show their smiling faces, they were like, no, I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? So things became evident to some people about what is actually important in life. And that was huge, I think. So for all those things that we were talking about, those are the things that we can be grateful for opening eyes and awareness to a lot of things. So, but I guess I could go into kind of my story a little bit, and then we can talk. Brandon can go into his story afterward. Is that cool, Brandon?
Yeah, I could just say, to add to what you said, I know people who've actually pulled their kids out of school because of several reasons. You know, one of them was because of what they were learning and all this stuff. And another one was somebody I know wasn't able to go into the school anymore. So they wouldn't let parents into the school.
That's BS.
Yeah. And so they drew the line. They're like, no, thank you. I think I'll just take
Take my
care of my
kids home.
child. And,
Thank you.
you know, I get it that everybody can't do that. But it just, I think it goes along with a lot of the anxiety that people feel in this modern society that we live in. And one of them is to give up your kids. Because some of the people that I've heard talk about this that do homeschool their kids and stuff and have from the start just say that it didn't feel natural for them to send their kids away to that environment. And they just feel better. So they might not maybe make as much money or whatever it is, or might have to live a little less, like we were saying. And I think that's just what's coming with all this. It's like
Yeah,
a
pick your battles.
downgrade. Yeah, pick your battle. But like this is all, I think, just a downgrade in the way people are going to have to live. So that's one way where you can downgrade it and at least get some of your sanity back, from what I've heard from people, you know, in connection with your children if you feel like you're losing it. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to share that like when I was pretty young, I want to say probably a teenager or in college, I began to be hesitant about believing what was written on a newspaper or article on a website, sorry, not blog website, like a news website or article like that, because I would see how they presented the two extremes and not always at this. It was like one day you would see that coffee was a study found that coffee could be harmful to your health. And then the next day, or I'm just saying the next day, but like weeks later or months later, you would see new study finds that coffee could improve your health. It's like, do these people know what they're talking about? It's like one day it's this, one day it's that, and then it would always flip. It was always flipping. It was this or that or the, and you would see, I would see it all the time, and I'm like, I don't even freaking drink coffee. But what the F are they like? Do they not know what they're talking about? It was just blatant and obvious to me that I couldn't trust them or believe them because they're always constantly giving you the extreme, the other extreme. Like it's good for you, it's bad for you. It's good for you, it's bad for you. And I could see how that happened in some ways with what's going on and what happened in 2020 and how it's starting to happen even more. What some people would call a script flip, perhaps. But I wanted to talk about a little bit about how I saw 2020. I wrote a blog post some months ago called 2020 in Hindsight. And I just talked about how it was very eye-opening to me living through this time. I was exposed to a lot of deception going on in the world. So I was like, I awoke to that, or I like began to awaken to all this stuff. And so I learned a lot of things in a small amount of time. And it was like an exponential growth for me. And it really changed me for the better. And it wouldn't have ever happened if 2020 had been like a status quo year, like the year before or years prior. So some of the things that I noticed that happened for me or that, and this was early 2020, I had started to come to see how religion was just a way to control people. And so I walked away from that. I left the church I was going to, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to study things on my own. And I started reading the Bible and doing that stuff on my own and trying to learn that way. But then I began to see other things, right? So I said, you know what? I'm wiping the slate clean on everything that I was ever taught, that was ever indoctrinated into my ears, so that I could be open-minded to new ideas. And a lot of things began to be opened up to me. And one of those things was natural law and sovereignty stuff, related things. The fact that I said inalienable, but Brandon basically is saying unalienable. And I could say that too, unalienable rights, because what it means is that they're not able to be liened. You can't put a lien on your rights. So I became aware of those things. And so I won't allow that to be trampled on. And I have learned a lot and seen a lot since opening my eyes to that. But Brandon had some comments on solipsism that he was talking about when it comes to.
Yeah. So I think that most people in the society are just solipsists. And I think we've talked about solipsism before, but basically what it is just a boiled down ideology of what is behind Satanism or any kind of core belief system where you have, or any kind of belief system where the core value is you're putting yourself in your needs, but your selfish needs, not things that materialistically that you think you'll need to get ahead. So you'll basically do anything to get ahead of the crowd because you see that everyone's kind of like, well, this is one frame of mind where you see everybody else's kind of stupid sheep and they're just out there doing, just following the crowd and they're just running off cliffs. So you're like, well, I might as well just use or use my knowledge that all these things I found to my benefit and screw these people over. And a lot of people do this in corporations and businesses and stuff. So I think though what happens is people emulate this behavior and then they repeat it. And the reason is because we're kind of, like you said, the indoctrination. We're taught to get all of our validation from exterior sources at a young age by parents, teachers, schools heavily. We've talked about this so much. Look into John Taylor Gatto if you don't know what I'm talking about. So because of that, we display the behavior of slaves. And as slaves, well, I don't want to say we, but people in the society it could be argued definitely display the behavior of slaves. And it's really just a mental slavery. And it's like it's slavery where debt is a big part of it. So a lot of people say it's debt slavery, but at the end of the day, it's this mental thing. I think that's how people are able to get into debt slavery, is because the mental comes first. So the belief system that goes behind it that allows people to function and not totally go crazy, which some people do, right? And then some people start podcasts and grow their hair out and,
Look
but
like Jesus and
yeah,
everything.
exactly.
Just kidding.
But I think the way that the people who try to get to the top of the pyramid in that society, the way they do it is the solipsism. And what it is even if it's not a conscious belief system that they're like, I worship the devil or I'm a Satanist, it's just a way they could even think they're either atheists, they can think they're Christians or whatever it is. They could think that maybe donating a bunch of money is going to get them into heaven and they're good Christians. But at the end of the day, their belief system, the way that they think, they actually are putting themselves at the top of the structure or trying to get there. And they don't mind screwing people over, even if it's, again, like it's not a conscious thing. They're just okay with it. It's a cognitive dissonance, right? Because if you're not living according to, like you were saying, natural law or karma or God's law, you're going to experience um, some kind of anxiety. It happens a lot of times. So uh, I think to get around that, that's what they do. They just have this belief system of it doesn't matter, nothing matters, blah, blah. I don't want to speak for people, but this is just like one example of a way it could go. So, yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell. It's just really like the science way to look at Satanism, right? The scientific way to break it down and say, what is this behavior that they're displaying? Or they're solipsists. There you go. Even if they're a confirmed Satanist, it's solipsism. Whereas the way we try to live our lives is just in accordance with natural law or karma, or just in accordance with nature. They're just going the inverted way.
Yeah, good point.
Thanks.
But yeah, so that's another, the whole natural law sovereignty stuff is one of the things I became aware of. And then another thing that I became aware of was this concept of terrain theory, which I wouldn't say was exactly new to me, because I had started a blog back in 2012 and I called it Nature Evangelist because I wanted to use that blog to bring people answers to issues that they were having with their, like if they had any dis-ease in their bodies. I wanted to show that, because I knew just inside of me, deep inside of me, I knew that nature had the cure for any ailment of the body. I didn't know it was called terrain. I didn't know that there was this concept called terrain theory, but deep inside, I knew that there was something. I knew that nature had the answer to everything. And that's why I called it Nature Evangelist. But
Just to
this,
really quickly interrupt you, because people could be like, they could hear you say that and they could be like, that sounds kind of crazy. But honestly, you can logically deduce it, because if we're humans and we got to this point in our
how did we get here?
existence, exactly, and everyone's like, well, you could have died of penicillin, there wasn't penicillin, you would have died of strep throat. And I mean, well, first of all, do you have any evidence to support that claim? And second of all, I don't think that the whole human race was saved by penicillin. I don't think they could have got it to everybody in time in the Wild West, so I mean, I don't know, but I think that is a much healthier way to look at it in just a mind frame. Because if what I've seen about our beliefs are actually true and how much belief affects it, it's a much healthier way to at least view the world. And from that way, you're kind of elevating to the next level. But anyway, continue. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Oh, absolutely. And belief of what's going on in your body and how you're responding to it has so much to do with how you're really going to respond. So if you're constantly saying that you feel sick or that you don't feel well or that you're this, well, that's going to be your reality. Um, so, I mean, I'm not trying to sound like I'm some uh, special person, but I I haven't gotten sick in a really long time. Like haven't gotten terribly sick in a really long time. Um, but I do eat at home. I rarely eat out, and I watch the ingredients on everything that I buy. And I don't buy anything that says natural flavors, and I don't buy anything that has soy in it. Like if I see something that has soy in it, or I eat at a restaurant that has soy in it, fine. Like it's going to happen every once in a while, but I don't actively intend to put that in my body. So, and then I also wear things on my body, like whether it's perfumes or um, uh, skin moisturizers or whatever that are based in natural ingredients, like oils, like jojoba oil or and essential oil based things. So I'm I'm not trying to brag or anything. I'm just saying that I have taken care of myself so that I don't get sick. And so um so I can say that that's valid and true, and I can say that if I get myself into a moment of despair that I'm sick, then that will happen. It will transpire. So I don't allow myself to go there. If I start feeling a tickle in my throat, I go grab some colloidal silver or some elderberry syrup, and I just say, "Okay, we're going to take care of this. Whatever's trying to happen isn't going to happen." And I get sleep and I get rest and I take care of myself, so that it doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen. So, um, but yeah, I know there'll be people who don't agree, and that's okay. But along with what you were just saying, there's also this concept of despair and this victim consciousness and mentality that, uh, negativity all the time, blah, 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 going into despair, spiraling downward, right? Um, that is something I became aware of as well. And that when you are in that sort of mindset, that definitely things will go wrong. And they can go wrong and they will go wrong if you continue in that mentality. So I personally have come to see this life that I'm living as a means to heal any past wounds, whether in this life or any past lives. And I can transmute that so that I can heal all of that, heal my soul, and I don't have to be in that mode of despair anymore, because there's always a silver lining, and that's why we're talking about this. That's why we're having this episode, right? Um, but yeah, one of the final things on my list of things that I saw this past couple of years also was like this alternate um, alternate narratives to the history that we've been told and the history that we've been indoctrinated with. And I'm not saying that I know what the truth is, but now I just have like a spectrum of ideas to kind of think about in my mind. And perhaps one of those is, or like a blend of all of those, is true. And it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if I know what true history was or wasn't. If I'm meant to know and find out this lifetime, then I will. If it's exposed and I find out, then great. If not, I just know that what I've been told isn't necessarily true. So, but that's the summary kind of the things that I saw the past couple of years, and the and that I'm thankful for, for being open-minded. And it's very freeing. I felt like this, just all this knowledge and wisdom it's helped me feel very free. Um, yeah. So back to you, Brandon, and your story.
Back to me so soon?
Yeah. Did
No,
I finish too quickly? Sorry.
no, I'm just,
You,
I was being sarcastic. I shouldn't have. No, I was just being silly.
oh, did I spend too much time? Sorry.
No, it was actually the great amount of time. Um, but just the way you said it, I was just kind of going along with it. So, no, I think that's really important. What you highlighted, it's really important to be thankful. That's why I wanted to talk about this kind of stuff on this episode. And I had a similar, I guess you could say, experience, but totally different. So I was already, how can I put this? So I was just looking into different things. And when this happened, I probably had the same viewpoint of view as, like, Event 201 and all that stuff coming. I think there was like a baseline of people who saw that, but I was into already, a lot of this natural law, karma, God's law stuff, esotericism, looking inside, dark nights of the soul, all this kind of stuff. Already cleaned up a bunch of my behavior, which we talked about. And I just started to try to align myself with nature as much as I could, given the circumstances that I'm in. We all do what we can from where we're at, right? But I spent all this time virtually in seclusion, just learning a lot of things. And then I was still like working and stuff and DJing on the weekends and seeing a bunch of people and still hanging out with friends on and off. But most of the time I was just immersed in this whole study. And then 2020 happens, and like you said, you saw everything coming, and I was able to make a lot of friends. So my life changed dramatically because went from basically going out every weekend and sometimes during the week playing music, doing comedy, running open mics, whatever I could this way to make money, to eat, to pay my bills. And in the summer, it was really good because I did a ton of weddings and stuff. In the winter, it was a little leaner, but I managed to get through and live this life. And I was basically figuring out how I was going to transition, or just live this way and try to support myself to try to figure it out, whatever. But then 2020 happens and it's, a whole different ball game. So I can't do that anymore. But I made a bunch of different friends online and started recording a bunch of stuff, recorded some stuff with some doctors that are like internet famous now, like Judy Mikovits and Andy Kaufman, Dr. Kaufman or whatever, Crushmore or whatever they call him. uh, Dr. Buttar, these guys, Sherry Tenpenny was one of them. So that was pretty interesting. And all those videos got like tons of views. Not like I really made any money, but it was just a really cool experience, and I got experience from it. And it's just something that I can add to the belt of the things or my my resume. And but I also like to give a shout out to Steve, who's in our little Telegram group, because we asked some people to share what they kind of things they were thankful for. And I met him early. I actually met him kind of in 2019 at a Mark Passio event. And I hope that name doesn't trigger people. We all have people we learn from, and we all agree and don't, like, I love Mark. He's a great dude. And the stuff that I learned from him and is like invaluable, and it didn't even really cost me a lot, but mostly my time. And then anytime I've ever called into the show, he was always really good dude, would answer my questions, have a great conversation with me. And even when I met him in person, he was cool. So I know everyone's got some issues, right? We all battle anger, but anyway, so
I just want to reiterate what you said, and I never interacted with him, but I want to say that all his presentations that I've watched, whether he is very direct, very to the point, he still delivers fantastic information. So for that, I'm very thankful, because the natural law stuff that I learned from him. And I think it's it was, for me, it was kind of the basics. Like I needed to see that first And I did, and it was good. It was good
Yeah.
information.
And I'll also say that I think if you take anything of his out of context, you could paint it in any way. And I could disagree with a lot and even agree with what his critics would have to say. But, and the thing is, too, to really get an idea what he's trying to put across to people, you, in my opinion, to get good context, you have to consume a lot of it, and then you kind of get what he's about. Because he just says that, you know, everybody has to do this in their own way. But the one important thing I noticed in the tools I gained from him were just basically like spell breaking is what it's called. But like you were saying about religion, and you saw these inconsistencies, he does presentations and directs them at different areas like the new age movement or
Right.
religion in general, and or government. And what he'll do is just show how these structures work in the human brain, and he actually takes the blame off of these structures if you watch long enough, and puts it on the people themselves. Like that's his whole thing, is like everybody says they want change, but nobody wants to change their own behavior, you know.
Mm.
And that's kind of the gist of what you get after so anyway, that's Mark Passio in a nutshell. So I met Steve at one of these events. I drove down to Philly to take a teaching natural law seminar, it was called. And basically he just kind of, it was like for people who wanted to do this stuff, broadcast media and stuff. He was going to hold a class and show you how you can do it, and, you know, on a pretty tight budget, and not really, you know, break the bank and maybe make some money. But, you know, it's like probably not in this movement, but, you know, you could try. So it's more about noble efforts, right? But anyway, so it was really cool. I got a lot of good information. Steve was up there talking, and then I got to talk to her at the end of the show because they asked for a volunteer. And of course, you know, I was like, he's like, I need someone that's not nervous in front of people. And I'm like, yeah, let's do
I
it.
need someone who's 6'4" or
Yeah,
what? How tall are you?
6'4". Yeah, I need a
Yeah.
giant who's not nervous in front of people. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I do comedy. I can do this. You know, like I've told the worst jokes in front of like three people. It was terrible. I can definitely get up in front of 120 and just like answer questions. So it was cool. And then, so that's when Steve remembers me. And then in 2020, after the whole like 3/11 2020 lockdown thing, Mark Passio, the director, opened up, or his producer opened up a Discord voice chat. So I met a few people in there, and one of them was Kaylee, and I've recorded a bunch of stuff. Those are some awesome videos, and hopefully record soon. I just talked to her, and she's actually under the weather in Australia. I'm like, wow, this is weird that it's happening to everyone in the realm around the same time. So, um,
And she's not down under. I mean,
yeah,
allegedly.
yeah, down under. So, and then I met Steve as well, and so that's why I wanted to give him a shout out, because those friends are, I'm definitely thankful for, because they got me through some dark times. Because like I said, I was looking into all this stuff, and I never really looked into the rabbit holes of, like, I came into it from the history angle, the whole, I guess you can say, conspiracy. I kind of saw the nuts and bolts of how empires worked, and then I just followed it up till present day, and I'm like, ooh, that's kind of how they did it. And I was like, all right. And then they got to everyone through the education system, right? So I was never really worried about like pedophiles in the sewer and all this crazy conspiracy and stuff, and like who is that. It's just, I was like, oh yeah, they're all scumbags, you know, I get it, and
Yeah.
whatever. And then I became aware of this natural law stuff, and I'm like, well, yeah, but it's because of people's behavior. That's why they're able to get away with it. So I was like, well, I can't point fingers. So that was my point of view. But once 2020 happened, and you start to see how everything appears to be, it could be, look like it's all being controlled by like a small cabal of evil people, you know, like all these things happen and numbers line up and this crazy stuff, and it could really drive a person nuts. And I think there's plenty of evidence of that. I just go look at Reddit, you know, like, or whatever. So the way I navigated that was through the people that I met, and through the point of view of that they had on the world and the comedy. And like you said, people like Owen Benjamin. I mean, I was following him for quite some time, and I'd watch him on and off. And then when 2020 happened, I was basically every day just watching him, because he was just making fun of it all and making everyone laugh. And I got into some other people, and they, like you said, you start to learn about victim narrative and what that means. And are you a victim? And when something happens in the world, are you looking at yourself as a victim? Like, oh no, poor me now. I can't go out and go to the movies and watch the new Marvel movie or whatever it is, or I can't go make a living playing music now, and I gotta be poor for a while. Or is it like, oh, this is great, now I got all this time off, I could focus on things, I could start a podcast or write a book. I could think of interesting new ways to make money.
You started a garden.
Started a garden, yeah, all these things. Wrote a book. Again, made the connections that I made.
You
Friends
got out
like
of
Sharon.
despair mode.
I got out of despair mode, and I had several other different dark nights of the soul, I guess you could say, and I shifted my views on several things, and that would have never happened if 2020, like you said, because you're just going along to get along, doing what you have to do, and then roadblocks come up, and then you decide if you're just going to let it defeat you, or if you're just going to find a way around that roadblock or under it or whatever.
Yeah,
And by
these are the
doing that,
challenges
yeah, and
that
then by
cause
doing that,
people to, yeah.
oh, go ahead, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying these challenges are what cause us to grow. You can't grow without any challenges. But you go ahead.
Well, it's like when I was in boot camp, they have this thing called a confidence course, and if you ever seen like Full Metal Jacket or any of these movies about Marine Corps boot camp, it's always the one where they have to like climb really high, and you got to like, there's a rope that goes down and underneath is water, and you got to climb the rope, and then you got to switch positions, so you got to like swing your legs over and grab the rope the other way, and most people fall in below to all this water. And then when you get done with it, you're just like, wow, it's such a confidence builder, because when you spend like a month looking at it before you do it, so it's just so intimidating. You got to march by it all the time. You're like, this fucking huge tower I gotta climb. And then when you do it, you're like, oh, this is awesome, and you just feel great. So it's the same thing, because now when you face another challenge, you're like, well, if I got through that other challenge, then I could figure this one out. And then as you do it, it stacks, and you just build that confidence. And that's what this does. It's a pressure cooker. Things like this happen, you can look at it, just again, it's just another challenge. So
Yeah, absolutely.
you're like MacGyver, and all you got is a paper clip and a light bulb and some bubble gum, man. How are you gonna get out of this one?
You're right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Good allegory? No.
Analogy. I was with
Analogy. Thank you.
shout out to Quiet Sparky Birch. I was with him today, and he was shitting on MacGyver, but I was like, yeah, but 18 was fucking solid, man. That holds up. So 18. I actually interviewed a guy when I used to do the comedy show. He did comedy too, but he was a child actor at the time, and he's on MacGyver, and I've had him on my podcast. So one degree of separation from MacGyver. Thank you. I had somebody on my show who was on the show, and he was the only kid to ever die in MacGyver, because his character died in a helicopter crash. I was like, oh, that's probably why I didn't go anywhere after that. No. Everyone's like, we don't want the kid that died in MacGyver.
Jeez.
He was funny about it, and he's let's just say he's not married. Anyway.
Jesus. Sorry.
No, he's a great guy. I love him.
Speaking of comedy, what do we think's going to happen?
Oh man.
What will the quote script flip be?
Well,
and you might want to look at your notes.
Okay. Good call. I was gonna say that first, I didn't miss anything.
You wanted to talk about the North Node and the division that happened.
All right, so this is how it was explained to me. So I'm not an expert in astrology, everybody. I'm definitely a tarot expert. I'll make that claim, because I did a podcast where me and my other co-host, my co-host on that podcast, Ashley, covered every single card in the tarot. So I'm an expert. Anyway, so now I'm very familiar with astrology and the terms and how they relate to esotericism and stuff, but I can't speak exactly to what the astrology is saying, but this is how it was explained to me, so I could break it down for people. And if I'm wrong, you can correct me down below. But my friend Zeralath, big shout out to his channel, check him out on YouTube. He was telling me how the North Node is shifting out of Gemini, and it went into Gemini in the beginning of 2020. Is there for around 2 years. and it's shifting out now, more to, I think he said Taurus, but he was also talking sidereal, so I'm not sure. But it's that same kind of energy. It's like the earthling energy. Now, Gemini, where it just shifted out of, is the twins. So it's about the split and about the division. And the way I
Mm.
interpreted, it's another
Ooh, I
way to make
like
up.
that. Interpreted.
The way I interpret that is, I say. That's my foghorn leghorn. I say is. I love that.
I
And I
love
hate when
him
people are
too.
like, he's racist. I'm like, I just thought he was
That's
funny. Like,
foghorn leghorn. How
yeah,
is that
he's a
racist? He's a
chicken.
freaking chicken.
He's a
I'm
rooster.
racist against chickens, damn it.
Good thing I keep my feathers numbered for just such occasions when he loses his feathers. Keep my feathers numbered. Yeah, dude, he was the classic
He was
Southern
he
gentleman,
was
but he was a
hilarious.
boob. Yeah, he was great. He took it well though. That's what I liked. He was like an insult comic, and then he just gets smacked. He's like, all right, yeah, it was great. He was like Ron White. You know, Ron White, the comedian with the fucking, he always has like cigar and whiskey.
No, I don't think
Yeah,
I know.
Foghorn Leghorn is definitely drinking. It was great.
He's hilarious.
Shout out to all our 80s babies and 70s babies that know what we're talking about. All right. So where was I? Foghorn
The
Leghorn?
North Node and
Yeah, so the
shifting out
Gemini.
of Gemini.
So this split, so the way that I describe it or the way I interpreted it was there's this split in consciousness, and we all started to feel it. It kind of started heavy after the Trump election. And everyone's like, oh, you were either for him or against him. And it was like, and I, of course, was on neither side and would just try to throw comedy to each side. And it was like, wow, this is crazy. I even noticed it. So, but 2020, obviously, then we get to where there's some people who think it's okay to show your smiling face in public. And then some people think that you're a terrorist if you do it. There's palpable division, right? Like people are, I've experienced it myself. People give me a hard time in public because of my smiling face. Me, this nice, gentle giant who's hilariously always smiling.
And
Nope.
looks like Jesus.
And looks like Jesus, my child. So yeah, so it was brutal for a while. And I think if I have it right, not that division is going to go away, but the focus isn't going to be on it as much. So I think it's going to fade a little more. And what that really means to me is that some kind of truth or something's going to be revealed, and people are going to look at something in a different light, and it's going to gel more back together. Now, still, they're going to have this different view of each other and all this stuff, but it's going to be not as polarizing. And I think we're starting to get into that, and what that's could happen. We're just going to start to speculate here, and this is where we're going to get into comedy and all this fun stuff. Is people talk about the script flip. Now, just like you were saying earlier in the show about what were you talking about, if it's healthy for you and it's not, coffee, right? Oh, it's good for you. Oh, it's bad for you. So what else happens with that? We see that with medications all the time, right? Zoloft. Oh, it's good for you. It's bad for you. Now you sue. And,
Were you harmed by?
yeah. Did you breathe asbestos and now you have, freaking whatever, all
We
these
have
side
a
effects?
lawyer for you.
Yeah. So if this same thing inevitably, a lot of people are saying it's probably going to happen with this certain medical experiment. So you have this whole fear porny thing going that it's going to be forever and you're going to have all these boosters till you die and it's going to be medical tyranny forever. Right. And then we have people that are like, is that really how it happens though? Nah.
Yeah.
Usually what happens is people start to find out it's a scam. They realize, man, was I just living in a whole vaccine, that whatever commercial for 2 years? Is that what was going on? Was I in a giant commercial, like a South Park episode? Like, is this an ad? Oh, and then people are going to feel a certain way about it. And like I said, some people are going to go, well, I didn't say this, but I think some people are going to go overboard about it. And some people are just going to kind of forget about it or whatever. And that's going to be the split. The people who can accept it and the ones who can, I guess, and whatever. So that's why we want to talk about this. So if that happens, which is probably inevitable, that's going to happen, right? You're going to see these commercials like, were you forced to take an experimental medical serum or you're going to get fired? Call us now. Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, 1-800. Get yours, motherfucker. And I think it's going to be a destruction of something, right? But do we really want to destroy is it, is it what we're really going at? Or is it like the bull with the cape, like Toro, and then they move it and there's an iron anvil and you hit that instead? What's your rage going to be directed at destroying? And I think we could speculate a little on this because, we're kind of smart, me and you, right? We kind of can see things ahead when they're coming.
I
And
saw it coming.
yeah, so, if you realize you can get a bunch of people whipped up in a rage to destroy something, what if you can get them to destroy the actual thing that's really supporting them? Like the government, like government protections. And again, I'm no fan of the government, but if you take out government protections and stuff like that, what's under it? Do you have a militia behind you to protect what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, so I think that people should be very wary of where they place their rage and disgust at what's going on. But I think, like, again, we were talking before this, I think if we could start to show people where it might go, and then if it goes there, they're going to be like, fuck, you can get mad, but then you'd be like, fuck, these guys called that? That's crazy. So yeah, I think it's our way to throw out little shields for people and maybe a little, trip them up a little bit on their rage. How dare they?
Yeah. Do you want to look at the notes where we're talking about people's reactions and
what did I miss?
Keep that open. Oh, you talked about the script flip, but just keep it open if you can.
Okay. So we were talking about what, like, people freaking out and stuff like that.
Yeah, you wanted to talk about people's reactions.
Oh yeah, okay, I remember now. All right, so another thing, because if you think about the beginning of all this stuff, it's just like a cycle, like I tell people, I'm like, there's like, you never wore a mask. I'm like, I never even did the ice bucket challenge. Like, what?
I didn't either.
That's what I mean.
Both of those things.
Yeah. So there's these cycles of things that happen, and some people that participate, and then there's some people that just don't participate in it, right? Because we're just like, it's just not my thing, man. Like,
Can I say something about that real quick?
Yeah, please do.
It started back in the day when emails became more popular and, more and more people were getting emails. And then they would do these email chains where they would send you like, you're going to be blessed because blah, blah, blah. And if you send this to 12 people in the next 5 minutes, you're going to be blessed. But only if you send it in the next 5 minutes. If you're not going to be blessed. And I'm just like, how does that work? And I kind of saw right. I saw it right through it. And I very quickly stopped responding to those things. And they started to annoy the crap out of me when they're like, send this back to me if I'm one of your best friends. And I'm like, I would never force someone to do something they didn't want to do. So someone who calls himself a friend and does that to me is not really a friend, are they?
Yeah, I'm like,
Sorry.
I guess I just got bad luck now. Like because I'm never going to send this out. Like, I'm like,
right.
Like, I didn't even do the electric slide. Like, I was like, no, they come out here. I'm like,
I don't even know how to do the electric slide.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a DJ. I should know how to do that. I mean, I know how to do the Cupid Shuffle because it's in
the
the song.
Macarena either. Like, I was like, how do you do that?
How are you doing, Macarena? I do not know that slut. Take her away from me. I do not do Macarena. She dirty hoe. She have AIDS. She has got the AIDS. The HIV. I did the Macarena because it was like a challenge.
It was more fun to learn how to.
It was like, yeah, but like the whole.
I think I tried, but I was like, I'm not really good at this.
Hey, Sharina. That's right. Yeah, I'm not like a bandwagon guy,
Right, but that's what it reminded me of, right? That's the whole bandwagon, and I've never been one to get on the bandwagon with everybody.
And I've also talked about this too. I've never really been one to succumb to fear. I don't want to say that ever, but like I've never panicked. There you go. I've never really been one to, I mean, I panicked before, but I've been one to pull myself out of it and save my own life a couple times and other people's lives too because of my quick actions and reflexes. So I think that with those two combined things, okay, I skipped the ice bucket challenge, whatever, who cares? But then when the whole 2020 thing rolls out, a lot of people reacted with this fear and this panic, and they just kind of reacted in a way where they thought they were doing the right thing. Right. And they thought that they were saving people and they're helping everybody. And they looked at people who are questioning the narrative and they're looking at us like we were the bad guys. So they're demonizing the ones that they should have been paying attention to, like the canaries in the coal mines, the frogs that just aren't going to take it. We're not going to take it. We're going to hop on out of this fucking dirty ass scummy pond. You know what I mean? So I think that their reaction was used, and there was this huge commercial. Like I said before, a lot of people took this experimental medical serum, and I feel like if the script flip comes and people realize it's not what it said, it's not maybe as safe and effective could it be, maybe there are some side effects and they're not talking about it or whatever, I think a lot of people are going to get angry and there's going to be another reaction, right? Another panic, another
Mm-hmm.
freak out, another moment of not using your head and just acting and reacting, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then what's going to happen? Rage squirts. You know, people, maybe they're going to go get mad at their local pharmacist. I don't know what's going to happen. But do you
Mm.
think that this is a question we'd like to ask? It's like, all right, so you were fooled once and you freaked out and you reacted and you did something and you regret it now. Now you see the truth, but you think that do you think that maybe it was someone's trying to show it to you on purpose? You're being duped. You're being played like a little bitch, like a little violin, like a flute or whatever. Uh for your anger, maybe it's just another tool of division. Maybe there's people that benefit. Again, structures that could be torn down, relationships that could be destroyed, that you're gonna regret later when you wake up out of this rage, like the Hulk, you know?
You said something about classic game theory.
Yeah, that's what it's kind of like when I'm playing poker, right? And this is what it reminds me of kind of like game theory when you're facing an opponent in chess is the same way. It's like you want them to do something that they normally wouldn't do, or you always have to watch out. And when you're making a move, you got to think to yourself, am I doing this because my opponent wants me to do it? Or what does my opponent want me to do? And then sometimes in poker, I say this all the time. I don't always know exactly the hand that I'm against, like what my opponent is holding, the two cards. I don't always know. Sometimes I can guess, and I'm usually pretty good at it, and I get an idea, but and I don't always know though. But if I can get an instinct that he doesn't want me to do something, that's what I'll do. So it's just like you're doing the opposite of it, and you're playing the odds. And in a game like poker, it's very similar to life, where you could take chances like that, and it's like you could be pretty sure that you're not really putting anyone's life in danger. You're going to kill yourself with it. You're just testing it out and you're following your instincts and you're just going against whatever the perceived thing in society wants you to do. You're just doing the opposite of it to see what happens. And, most times it's because you're not doing it from a place of fear. You're doing it from a place of your intuition. And I think if you can
Mm-hmm.
get to that stage, or at least think of that, like, am I doing this out of fear? You can at least come out of that. Because if you're like, think of it, you're just being a little bitch. If you're doing it from a place of fear, it's because you're scared and you're, oh my god, I gotta do it because of this. No, we must mock that behavior because that's what got us here in the first place.
The cucking years
Yeah,
you speak
cucked
of.
on you. Bring that song back. I got a feeling deep inside my, what did I say? I got a hatred deep inside of myself. I just got abused. I guess I'm turning gay. That's what you're doing when you do this, guys, everybody. When you get all mad and say, oh my God, Dr. Fauci, I got to rip him out of his office. Listen, that guy, you don't got to do anything to him. He's got to live with being Dr. Fauci. Ooh, so he's
Could
not
it
going to,
be?
he doesn't have anything lined up that's great. I mean, even what's he gonna win a Lamborghini? What's his best end game? He's gonna get a bunch of people to touch his disgusting genitalia. You know what I mean? Like that guy's just
Ugh.
on his way out. Yeah, no matter what, whatever you believe in, that guy's going to like the worst circles. I'm sure. I'm not making any claims, but let him go, dude. And it says in the Bible, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Trust me. You can't even think of this shit. If that's the thing, you kill these people, then they don't have to live with this shit that they did and see the faces of the people that hate him and all this stuff. You don't know what it does to them, because he could just be a silly dupe that loves attention. And then when this turns around, man, he might just kill himself. You never know, like let him
Well,
be.
that, or like you were saying before, they may turn it around and blame. They may take a couple of scapegoats and blame them, maybe put them in jail and make them look like the ones that were responsible for everything. And it's like, that removes responsibility from the people who like should have listened to their intuition rather than to listen to someone tell them what to do.
Exactly. It's like this, we'll bring him back up again, Mark Passio, because he's such a hot button topic. No, I love the guy. But one thing he said that I always loved was that his theory, he's like, everyone thinks I'm crazy for this, but I think all criminals should be let out of jail and put back into the society where they're from, so that society can deal with them, because that's who created them. And I was like, whoa, that's fucking crazy. I'm not advocating that you let all these people out. I don't agree with the prison system at all, but again, it's a whole complicated thing. So I'm not making claims, but wow, what an interesting take on it, right? It's like, yeah, that society, if you're the ones in that society who caused those people, if taking them out is not natural, you're just removing it. It's like they try to say cancer, you got to cut it out. It's like, no, what's causing it, man? It's the
Yeah.
same analogy, man. It's like treating cancer.
Well, in cancer, I mean, to get off topic, cancer is really actually the healing portion of, it's your body actually healing. That's what cancer is, enveloping all the stuff that is the bad stuff so that it can get rid of it. It's not, but nobody
Allegedly,
really knows
but
that.
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Anyway,
This is an
allegedly.
entertainment podcast, everybody. We don't know anything about cancer. I'm a cancer. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about astrology now. So
Yeah. We're
um,
speculating here.
yeah. No, yeah, it's crazy just because we're broaching so many topics, and cancer is one of those ones, man. It's rough. It's just like I've learned about everything. It's not what we've been told, probably,
Exactly.
right? It's a
Exactly.
safe bet. Again, not what we've been told. All right, I guess I win this bet. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, and uh
I think the next thing
God.
we were going to say is that, if, for example, you have a couple of scapegoats, then you can
Mhm.
also have someone who comes in to save the day,
Yeah,
allegedly.
the pit and the pedestal thing, like James True and Owen would talk about. You have somebody who's in the pit, so Dr. Fauci, right? We're going to get him, we're going to throw him in
Or
jail.
Biden or
And
whoever.
Biden, all these people, like, or Biden could just be whatever, unfit for office. Is that? Oh, okay. Sorry, it's my camera. So I thought, was there a bug on me? So yeah, so that, and then we have these people who it seems that are being set up to be like heroes, right? Like we were talking about before, Judy Mikovits, and that the guy that she was a
Tenpenny and
Tenpenny, and the guy that she was always,
Kaufman. Sorry,
yeah.
keep going.
No, it's all right. Well, I don't know if he's going to be part of this one, but
I know, I'm just saying, alleged experts, right?
yeah, like that's the thing. You trade in, we were saying earlier, you trade in one expert or one group of experts for another group. So you have these other doctors that sound, they're not putting up in the narrative, but it's still
It's like the
falls.
double cross that Amanda Vollmer talks about.
Yeah, exactly. It's the story that we know. Well, 7-Eleven wasn't exactly what the government said, but I don't think there was like holograms. But so it's just an inside gig, man. You get it. It's an inside gig. So same thing with this though, right? So you have your villains, you have your Dr. Fauci's and your Bill Gateses and all, Biden. And even Biden could say he was fooled. He has that level of whatchamacallit, like viability that he could be like, I don't know, these are the experts. We got to hang them. It could be pinned all like on Fauci and Bill Gates and all this stuff because of what we saw earlier. Now it gets put in a public light, like the TED Talks and all these things. People know what we're talking about. So then you get people like RFK Jr., who's this expert, and he's against all these mandates in the vaccine, the COVID, whatever thing, And
But he's
then,
not against all vaccination.
yeah, and that's something that those doctors we interviewed said. And it's funny because when they were first saying it, I figured why they were saying it. To me, it was like, well, they don't want to, they want to reach a larger audience. And for
Right.
them, it makes more sense to say this because it's more sensible. But now backwards, looking at it, deconstructing it, I could see that what it does is it allows people to remain in a state of cognitive dissonance and say, oh, it's just these people, just this treatment, this thing, everything else in society's fine, the medical establishment's fine, it's just this evil cabal that got in. Just like in a movie, it's like a movie, they must have just came in, it was about money or whatever it was, power. And you could just like cancer, you could just cut that out, just like taking one guy and throwing him in jail, and boom, everything's fixed. Let's go home, we fixed this, guys. And then who's going to come in? The new experts. You have Mikovits and Tenpenny or whatever, these people, or whoever they represent. I don't want to like call people out because, listen, a lot of these people are out there telling a lot of truth and they're waking people up, and it's up to them to figure it out on their own. But like, okay, we'll just talk about RFK, right? We'll talk about Robert Kennedy Jr. So he's one that's this guy who's out there and he's talking about it in vocals. So say somebody like him sweeps in, right? And he's like, oh, I got the credentials, I'm a Kennedy, everybody loves me. Yeah, but like you said, with the double cross, where did he come from? Who's his uncle? John F. Kennedy? Isn't he the guy that hung out with that guy Lem? Like, who's Lem? Hey, RFK, did you ever meet Uncle Lem? Like, what's going on there? How come we never heard about that? Was JFK an actor? Did he really get killed? What's going on?
Right.
Where did this family, the Kennedys, even come from? Were they just
Right.
a construct? Then if that's so, then who the hell is this RFK guy?
Right. And why does his voice sound so terrible?
Yeah.
It really discredits him. I don't know. That's just me.
Or is it one of these things like to make him seem like is this one of the, listen, we're making wild speculations, but is this character like, because sometimes like people say FDR was in the wheelchair just to garner sympathy,
right? I've heard that as well. Yeah.
So is this one of these tactics that a psychopath uses to like make him think he's an everyday man, like Jimmy Carter?
Point.
I'm a peanut farmer,
Good
whatever
point.
Or maybe he is, I don't know, because
I don't know either.
It's crazy because I know I was looking at starting to do this podcast like in the beginning of 2020. I even did it with this guy. It was like one of the first times I recorded in person during the lockdown, allegedly. And it was like the third day of it or something. No. But I remember we went to this other guy's house and his neighbor was like one of the other Kennedy. Oh, it was Bobby Kennedy, Teddy. Yeah.
Oh,
Teddy
God.
Kennedy's son. Teddy's son or something. It was like his fucking neighbor. And that's when I was like, yo, do you know about Lem? I was like, dude. Yeah, I'm fucking retarded. But I should have like went over and knocked, not the guy, his neighbor, but he was just saying how his neighbor, I don't think he was home, but he was just telling me because I was like, yeah, because I was trying to get him into like conspiracy things, like my angle. And I was like, oh, and I was kind of explaining the double cross to him without knowing it. And I'm just like, what about this Lem guy? And then he's like, I don't know, man. Because, he wants to believe my neighbor's the guy, like,
yeah.
Oh, whatever. But
they want
shit's hilarious. Yeah, it's so funny. How dare you take away my hot dogs and hamburgers on the 4th of July? I got relish and mustard, motherfucker. It's real. You take away my fireworks. I'm like, how can you fireworks? That's another thing in 2020. I'm thankful for like, I was like so confused. I'm like, how can people celebrate 4th of July right now? What's going on? But anyway,
it is. Yeah.
At least they didn't forget, I guess.
They never forgot.
Never forgot one. Yep.
But yeah, like you were saying earlier about these alleged other experts that come in and talk about this stuff and kind of like the double cross and propose that other alleged perspective. But what you were saying is that they're just offering band-aids because it's not really root cause solutions to the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because like I was saying with these, we'll just take it for an example. We'll take Dr. Mikovits, right? So she's this virologist who was supposed to be around like in the AIDS days. She was working in these like Fort Detrichs and all this stuff, going around like working with gain of function research and all this stuff on viruses, and then we learn about terrain theory. So then we're like, what the fuck was she doing?
Exactly.
Right. And then so I'm just going to leave that out there for people. So if you don't know terrain theories, I think we've covered this before, but basically it just is this, it's another way of looking at how you get sick. And they're saying that most times when other people get sick around other people, it's more of a sympathetic response, kind of like a yawn or something like that. And you're not really
because we're social beings.
Yeah, we're social beings.
So if one of us is going to detox, the other one's going to detox at the same time.
Yeah, it's more about you're getting sick because of the environment. There might be toxins in your environment. You might be weak. Maybe you're overdoing it. The seasons change, your food, your diet, all these things. Mm-hmm. And then because we're such social creatures and we do a lot of the same behaviors and we engage in a lot of the same things, we are going to get sick on a lot of the same points. But because some of us are stronger or healthier, it doesn't all happen the same day. So it might appear that we get each other sick, but I think it's more of a way of like our environment. So that's more of what terrain theory is about now. And there's also been books written and studies done allegedly where people like taking the snot out of like sick horses or other sick people and like injected them and they haven't gotten sick. And other people's plenty of stories about this online. So like who's the guy in Australia that does this, bald guy, really healthy?
Tom Barnett.
Tom Barnett. Yeah.
Yes. I was going to say Benjamin Balderson, but
I just watched it.
Yeah. Tom Barnett.
Yeah. Tom Barnett. He talks about how he would take the snot of like sick friends and try to get himself sick and he never could. So, cause he was like,
he tried in so many ways to get himself sick and he wouldn't get sick.
Yeah. So, and then when you look at psychology and stuff and break it down, it's a whole belief system about how there's something wrong with you or other people around you. And the same thing with religion, original sin, like in the Catholic religion, right? All right. So where were we going again?
So I was just going to say, I would say that even people can allow themselves to get sick, just as I was saying earlier, just by thinking that they're getting sick. So if they see someone around them getting sick, then they're like, oh my God, I'm going to get sick. And then they end up getting sick. Well, why? Because you just pronounced it over yourself. So your body said, okay, let's do it.
And what happens when you get stressed? Stress is one of the main causes of illness.
Huge trigger.
Regular doctors will tell you that. So,
and like, like traumatic experiences, like when people have a traumatic experience, months later, they'll get diagnosed with something. And it's because when you respond to a traumatic experience, a lot of things in your body could be responding. And like it triggers a lot of health related things. When people have a traumatic experience, like someone dying, someone very close to them dying, things like that. A lot of those things trigger, dis-ease in the body if they're not dealt with, because if they build up the trauma in your body and you're not in a healthy way letting it go, then it gets trapped in your body as dis-ease.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I think we were kind of done talking about that section. I wanted to ask Brandon a question to kind of close out the show if possible. Wow. We're at the 33rd minute of the hour here where I'm at and where you're at as well. Right. Funny. So anyway, and I just looked at the clock. So, but anyway, Brandon,
Yeah, sure.
If somebody asked you how to avoid a psyop in the future, what would you say?
All right. Well, this one, listen, it's really tricky. And if you practice enough, you could probably figure it out. But what I do is when I find myself uh, starting to fall victim to a psyop that's going out in society in the world, I just grab the TV remote and hit off and turn off my TV. Click.
That's really hard, buddy.
Yeah, man, that's all you got to do. Just like Owen Benjamin would say in the future, how do you avoid a FEMA camp? And Kaylee brought this up the other day too. She was talking about it even because they talk about this in Australia. I guess a lot of the truthers are like, they're going to put us in camps.
Oh, God.
She's
Okay.
like,
When you say that, you're probably going to end up in one of them. It's like, why are you pronouncing that over your future?
yeah, well,
I just don't give it any thought because I don't think that's going to happen. It's definitely not going to happen to me.
I think it's a possible outcome of a future that if you're pondering it, the more you ponder it, like pondering the orb or the orb of Valentil and
Yeah,
Lord of the
please
Rings.
do talk about the pondering of the orb.
The orb, right? So in Lord of the Rings, they find this orb, and I think Saruman has it in the movie. It gets cast down, whatever, and Pippin, I think the Hobbit grabs it and he like feels it, and then later he grabs it and he wants to look into it when Gandalf's sleeping, and they say that you should never look into it. And I think it's because when they're looking into it, and then when I was listening to the books recently, Boromir and Foromir's father, also the steward of Gondor, he has one that he uses also. And I think what happens with these guys, it freaks him out, and him especially, because it shows them all these possible futures and things that could be. And it sparks them into despair because they believe what they see and they get tripped up in it. And it's just, they can't see another way out. So I think that has a lot to do with pondering the future, where you shouldn't really get lost in thought of the future. It's good to have a plan, I think, and a model where you want to go. But when you start to think of all these possible outcomes and you just focus on it and you get lost in it, that's where I think you can get kicked into despair. And that's what I think the message of that was. There were some successful uses of it. Aragorn used it to signal to the enemy. And then also Samwise looked into the pool with the elves, and he kind of saw what was going on in the Shire a little bit, or what could be maybe to pass. But stuff like that was used as a motivation. They didn't get lost in it. That was like the correct usage of it, and they were directed to use it, I think, by their intuition. It wasn't like a thing where they were using it from selfish gain. So it has a lot to do with, any kind of tool. So yeah, that's what the pondering the orb's all about, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a really, really cool insight into that. And it reminds me of the 9 of Swords, which I got the other night in my reading. Yeah. Because it talked about like these swords that you're just, the swords represent ideas. So, and this person sitting up in bed, like despairing, and those swords are hanging like above them. So it's like they're despairing about all these thoughts and ideas. And what if those thoughts and ideas really aren't going to like come true? Like, why ponder on all these possibilities instead of like focusing on the present moment? Why worry about the future in that way? And then, throw yourself into despair.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because if you look at that card, there's 9 swords above that person. They're up in bed, they're covering their face, and there's 9 swords, but not all the swords are touching them. And like you said, they're not all physical things. They're just ideas in the air realm, and it could be just blown away just as easily.
Yeah,
easily.
It was in my past position, so that was
easily good. Ooh, that's great.
Yeah.
It's the holiday season. All right,
da 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 da. Da 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 da.
Yeah, I think we nailed it. Good job, Sharon.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're done. We covered everything, right?
I think so.
Nice. So I think it's been about almost an hour and a half. All right.
Oh, really?
Not bad. Yeah, because I think we were on for about an hour before. We've been going for 2:35. So, all right, everybody. Well, thank you for watching yet another episode we say goodbye to another year and hello to a new 2022. So, yeah, what can we learn? We're gonna be shifting from the five energy into the six. So it's gonna be an evening out. I think 6 is a really good number. So make it the best. It's all how you view it. And
it is spiraling up.
That's right,
everybody.
spiraling up. So big shout out to everybody in the chat, and make sure you hit like, you subscribe, share this stuff around, Over Sharon. And what do we say to the good people there, Sharon?
That if you're not over Sharon,
then you're totally not Karen.
That's right.
Because it's the holiday season. It's the holiday season, and the Hickory Dock. And don't forget to hang up your sock.